This is Trash Can Tidbits.
Hey there, everyone. I'm your host, Beaton, and this is Trash Can Tidbits. Last time, I asked the question, true or false? The Wachowskis originally wrote Switch to be transgender. The answer is technically true. They originally wanted to have the character to be played by two androgynous actors, a male in the real world and a female in the Matrix, hence the name Switch. While that didn't end up happening, the characters still left an impact on the Wachowskis themselves, who would both eventually come out as transgender between the late 2000s and 2010s. Lana came out in 2008 following the release of Speed Racer, and Lily came out in 2016. This is why the DVD bonus features of most of their movies after the first Matrix didn't feature any interviews with them, because they were just getting started with their transitions and wanted to keep things private. Now with that addressed, let's get started with fact number 1. Did you know that for the movie Beetlejuice, there were originally plans to have the main characters physically shown how they died throughout the movie? Alec Baldwin and Geena Davis played the lead roles of Adam and Barbara Maitland, a newly dead couple who try to find a way to get rid of their house's new eccentric owners. They briefly take a trip into the afterlife, and there are numerous dead people in a waiting room that are memorably shown how they died, including choking on a chicken, severed at the waist, burned alive, etc. The Maitlands, who drowned at the beginning of the movie, were originally going to be shown wet throughout as a result. However, it would have been too uncomfortable for Baldwin and Davis to endure being wet throughout the entire movie shoot. The Maitlands are still shown wet when their ghosts return home after their accident, however. Fact 2. Did you know that two of the child actors from the movie It accurately predicted who would play their adult counterparts in Part 2? It, based on the novel by Stephen King, involves a group of children facing their greatest nightmare, going up against a monster that has taken the form of a clown named Pennywise. The second half of the book takes place 27 years later, when the children are adults. The child actors were each asked who they would like to play their adult selves in the second film, suggestions being the likes of Chadwick Boseman, Christian Bale, Chris Pratt, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. However, only two of the child actors got their wish. Sophia Lillis, who played Beverly, correctly predicted Jessica Chastain, and Finn Wolfhard, who played Richie, correctly predicted Bill Hader. Fact 3. Did you know that the Batmobile from the 1989 Batman movie was designed without a door at first? In coming up with the design for Michael Keaton's Batmobile design, the art directors took inspiration from different cars, such as a Lamborghini for its low-to-the-ground structure, a jet engine for the thrusters, a Ferrari for the front and back headlights, and so on. However, when they presented the first prototype to Tim Burton, the director was impressed, but pointed out that there was no way for Batman to get inside. Apparently, the one thing the art department overlooked was a door. So they very quickly took inspiration from a fighter jet that had a sliding overhead door. The result ended up being one of the most memorable cars ever seen on film. Fact 4. Did you know that Alfred Hitchcock's cameos in his movies came about from his days working in silent film? In the days when extras were needed for larger scenes, people among the film crew would participate. Hitchcock got his start in silent films, and as his reputation grew, so did his appearance. His unique rotundness, I guess you could say, made him recognizable enough that he would be able to stand out in a crowd. So he began making cameos in his own movies as a result. The anthology TV show Alfred Hitchcock Presents also played the biggest part in establishing his image. As a general rule for himself, he would usually do so at or towards the beginning of a movie before any suspenseful action or plot point has taken place. For example, in North by Northwest, his cameo happens after the famous title sequence, right after his directed by Alfred Hitchcock credit has gone by. He runs into frame and appropriately misses a bus. Bonus fact, the only time he ever actually speaks in any of his movies was in 1948's Rope, where he doesn't show up on film, but rather provides the opening narration. Fact 5. Did you know that director Joel Schumacher was always the first choice to direct the film version of The Phantom of the Opera? Pre-production for the movie went back as far as the show's opening in London in 1986, and the movie version seemed inevitable. Composer Andrew Lloyd Webber and his then wife Sarah Brightman, who originated the role of Christine Daae in London and on Broadway, went to see Schumacher's 1987 movie The Lost Boys, which was about teenage vampires lurking in a coastal California town. They became huge fans of the movie's dark visual style and felt that Schumacher could be the one to direct Phantom as a film. Production was to have begun in 1990, with Michael Crawford and Sarah Brightman reprising their roles as the Phantom and Christine, respectively. But due to Lloyd Webber's public divorce from Brightman that year, the movie was put on indefinite hold, but never forgotten. Production didn't begin again until the early 2000s, when Schumacher and Lloyd Webber started over from scratch, and the movie version of Phantom was released with a different cast in 2004. While it garnered mixed to positive reviews at the time, it has since become a classic. Fact 6. Did you know that Nicolas Cage has a bucket list of 3 characters that he would love to play, and that he's already played 2 of them? The first is Dracula, which he played in the 2023 horror comedy Renfield, which revolves around Dracula's slave trying to make a better life for himself away from his demanding master. Why Cage waited this long to play Dracula, though, is anyone's guess, as he is the natural automatic choice. The second character is Superman. He came very close to doing so in live action for the never-made Tim Burton movie Superman Lives. The making and subsequent cancellation of that movie is pretty well documented, and that so-called cameo in the recent Flash movie does not count. If you want to count animation, though, Cage did provide the voice for Superman in Teen Titans Go to the Movies. The third character on his bucket list is Captain Nemo of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea fame. Look, Disney, I'm not saying you should remake that movie, but at least give Nemo an origin story. Fact 7. Did you know that Beetlejuice 2 has a neat little reference as to what the original title for the first movie was going to be? At the beginning of the movie, it's shown that Lydia Dietz is the host of a paranormal reality TV series called Ghost House. This is actually what the original movie was first proposed to be called. When Tim Burton was chosen to direct it, he didn't like the title and fought hard against Warner Brothers to change it to Beetlejuice. Legend has it that even at one point, he jokingly suggested calling it Scared Sheetless, in reference to the scene where the Maitlands attempt a ghostly cliché by wearing sheets with eye holes cut out of them. Apparently, Burton himself got scared sheetless when WB seriously considered using it. Fortunately, WB relented and Burton got his wish to change the title to Beetlejuice. Fact 8. Did you know that Chinese actress Ziyi Zhang got to be in 2 back-to-back movies that involved a character with the word fox in their names? Zhang broke onto the scene in 2000 in Ang Lee's kung fu epic Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where she played Zhen Yu, the daughter of a nobleman who has a hidden talent for martial arts due to instruction from her governess, an incognito outlaw and murderer in hiding called Jade Fox. Due to her success in that film, Ziyi's next movie, as well as her American film debut, would be Rush Hour 2, where she got to play one of the main villain characters, Hu Li, which in one variant of Chinese dialect means fox. Fact 9. Did you know that the Xbox 360 was once planned to release a port of Metal Gear Solid 4? The MGS series at the time was primarily PlayStation exclusive, and the 4th main entry was going to be released for the PlayStation 3. Konami did want to try to have a port made for the Xbox 360, but there was only one thing preventing them from doing so. The PS3's game discs were in the Blu-ray format, and held much more data than a standard game disc. Since the 360 wasn't in that format, the game would have come on multiple discs, while the PS3 version came in only one. Apparently, a demo was still made for the 360, and it ran pretty decently. However, one thing that still makes me mad is that Metal Gear Solid 4 still has not had a high-definition re-release on modern consoles. To this day, it is still on the PS3. I would love to see it in 4K resolution and a much smoother frame rate. Come on, Konami, use your resources from the Silent Hill 2 remake and put out MGS4 again. Jeez. Fact 10. Did you know that one of the most interesting interactions in The Godfather was done out of complete nervousness? At the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to the Corleone crime family at the wedding of daughter, Connie. One character that is also introduced is Enforcer Luca Brasi, played by former professional wrestler turned actor Lenny Montana. Luca was his first major part, and his first scene was when he attempted to congratulate Don Corleone on his daughter's wedding, and that, quote, "I hope that their first child be a masculine child." Montana was very nervous about working with Marlon Brando that the delivery of his lines came out slow and rather awkward, much to Brando's amusement during the scene. Director Francis Ford Coppola liked the genuine nervousness and left the exchange in the final cut. To add good measure, scenes were added to show Luca practicing his speech beforehand, making the scene even more lighthearted. And here's today's trivia question. For this, I'm going to talk about a failed add-on for a best-selling video game console. The Sega 32X was an accessory for the Sega Genesis that was supposed to bring the magic of 32-bit graphics for a lesser price than the competition. However, the 32X was developed by Sega of America, while without their knowledge, Sega Japan was secretly working on a full-on console that would play 32-bit games from the outset, which eventually became the Sega Saturn. While the 32X had a decent start, it failed and was soon eclipsed by the release of the Saturn, which was also later deemed a failure due to the late in development addition of a not fully tested 3D graphics chip that would make developing games really difficult, leaving the PlayStation to fully sweep Japan and North American game markets. My question to you is, what was the last game to be released for the Sega 32X in North America? And there we go for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the trivia I brought for you this month. Understandably, I decided to take some time off to mentally recharge after a lot of stressful moments this past month. The good news is that writing stuff like this keeps me busy and sane. I hope to continue bringing more fun educational pop culture content and other videos. And remember, going forward, we're all in this together. Life is worth living despite the troubling circumstances. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell to be notified for future content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.